Councillors, do any of you have a desire to extract any of these items for further discussion or action? Please indicate to the clerk. Let's start with Councillor Rothwell.
Thank you, Mayor Todd. I would just like to mention specifically item 3.8, the Ministry of Environment, Conservation and Parks Blue Blocks Transition Standard Schedule. And specifically note that 2024 is the proposed year for transition for Blue Box recycling for producer responsibility. Thank you.
Thanks, Councillor Rothwell, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I think that aligns with what we had submitted as our request for the transition date.
That is correct. Thank you, Mayor.
Thanks. Okay. Any other items on the consent agenda for our attention? Okay, seeing none, then I have that resolution that reads as follows, that consent items 3.1 to 3.10 be received for information and the minutes of the October 26th, 2020 regular council meeting be adopted. Can I call on Councillor Behrens as our mover for that?
Yes, I would make that motion. Thank you.
Thanks. And Councillor Duncan, will you second that?
I will second that.
Thank you very much. Any discussion or debate on that resolution? Seeing none, let's have that vote. And that is carried. Thank you. This time, it's proposed that we move on to agenda item 4. And in fact, we'll move quickly past agenda item 4 because there's nothing scheduled in terms of public meetings or delegations for tonight. That brings us then to agenda item 5, which are the reports from departments and key staff. Let's begin with item 5.1, reports from the CAO's office. Item 5.1.1 brings forward to council a report and suggested action on adding a new employment role to the organization. I will call on CAO Chris Snell to present this report and outline suggested actions. CAO Snell, welcome.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. Actually, Jen Robinson from HR is with us tonight. She will be presenting the report and both of us will be available for questions afterwards.
Thanks, CEO Snell. My apologies. Ms. Robinson.
Good evening, Mayor Kasenberg and members of council. Tonight, we are bringing forward, as Mayor Kasenberg said, a new position. Manager of Programs is what it's called. In March of 2020, when council discussed the restructuring of the new daycare centers with the addition of the 2 new daycare centers, we had brought forward a proposal at that time to restructure the entire department, being spearheaded by the manager of programs. So what we are bringing forward tonight is the job description for that position. The restructuring of the daycare department was approved at that March 9th, 2020 meeting. So basically what we're bringing forward this evening is the job description for the manager of programs who would oversee children's services, so all of the daycare center operations, including the early on programming, recreation programming, the administration of Perth Meadows and adult programming, as well as coordination with the North Perth Public Library. So we are on priority 3 of that plan, with the site supervisors and the program staff having been hired for the daycare center. So I am available to answer any questions about the job description that you have. I have included the pay banding by our pay consultant in the report. So if anybody has any questions about what we talked about in March or about what's proposed in the job description, I'd be happy to answer them.
Thanks, Jen. Questions or comments? First comments from council? Pat, are you seeing any indication of, okay, we're not seeing any indication of questions or comments at this point. So council, I have a resolution for consideration that the Council of the Municipality of North Perth approve the job description for Manager of Programs effective November 10th, 2020, And further, that Human Resources commence the recruitment and interview process through an external posting process as soon as possible. Can I call on Deputy Mayor Callum to serve as our mover for that?
Yes, I'll make that motion. Thank you.
Thanks. And Councillor Johnston, will you serve as our seconder?
Yes, I would second that motion, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Discussion or debate or even more information seeking at this point? We're not seeing any indication of that, so let's have that vote. And that is carried. Thank you. Next item on our agenda, 5.1.2. In this, CAO Snell provides a report on the community transportation project and invites council to consider promulgating an agreement with the city of Stratford and the town of St. Mary's related to bus stop locations for the inter-county transit system, a project led by the city of Stratford. CAO Snell, you want to offer a few comments on this one?
Thank you again, Mayor, and good evening, Council. On October 26th, at the council meeting, council passed a bylaw authorizing the municipality to enter agreements with bus stops with the county of Perth for the intra-county transportation project, which does connect North Perth with other parts of Perth County. And tonight we have with us the bus stop agreement for the city of Stratford, connecting us with the connection to Listowel to Kitchener-Waterloo. The agreement has been reviewed both by the city solicitor and our municipal solicitor, and is ready to go. The one thing, once the bus stop, or once the project reaches a full implementation in the new year, there will be an additional bus stop at Listowel Technologies for council's information. And the agreement's attached for your consideration, and happy to answer any questions.
Thanks, CEO Snell. Council, any questions, first comments? Okay, we're not seeing any indication of that, so let's have a look at the resolution that's been proposed. That the Council of the Municipality of North Perth received the report titled Community Transportation Bus Stop Licensing Agreement as information, and that bylaw 149-2020, being a bylaw to authorize the signing of the bus stop license agreement, be introduced, read, and considered read first, second, and third time, and be finally passed, and that the said bylaw be signed by the mayor and the clerk and sealed with the seal of the corporation. Can I call on Councillor Richardson to be our mover for that one?
I will move that. Thank you.
Thank you. And Councillor Rothwell, will you be our seconder?
I'll second the motion, yes.
Thank you. Discussion, debate, other comments? Seeing none, let's have the vote. And that is carried. Thank you. And that's a bit of good news. We should celebrate that particular effort. The bus system, the transit system, is to begin next Monday, I believe, a week from today. Councillor Enstedt, sort of a supplementary question at this point.
Yes, it was. Thank you, Mayor Kaseberg. Through you, Chris. I know you mentioned that the solicitor for the municipality and City of Stratford both reviewed it. Just looking at the insurance provisions, I'm assuming our insurance providers reviewed this as well. Thank you.
CEO Snell, did you want to respond?
Yes, that's correct. And we did end up going with the same insurance clauses, both in the earlier agreement with the city of Stratford regarding the joint project. So the insurance clauses are consistent with both the licensing agreement and the overall project agreement that was earlier adopted by council.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks, CEO Snell, and good question, Councillor Enstedt. Thank you. Next up is item 5.2.1. Council is provided with a report from North Perth planner Sean Yilmaz, which outlines the request to remove a holding provision status as a zoning bylaw amendment from properties on Winchester Crescent in the so-called Nickel subdivision, which technically is an Elmo ward, but which is considered part of Listowel. I'll ask Mr. Yilmaz to review this proposed matter for council. Welcome, Sean.
Hi, thank you. And good evening, Mayor Kasenberg, members of council. The subject application has been submitted in order to remove the holding provision on the subject lands and allow the construction of several single detached dwellings on the individual lots of record. The property is within the residential 3 zone with a holding provision identified as H2. The provision identified as H2 effectively requires evidence that all financial and servicing requirements for the proposed development have been met. Staff can confirm that the servicing requirements and the financial requirements have been met for the proposed development. The development also conforms to the policies of the County of Perth official plan and meets the requirements of the North Perth zoning bylaw. As such, it is staff's recommendation that the Council of the Municipality of North Perth approve the application for a zoning bylaw amendment for the removal of the holding symbol. Thank you.
Thanks, Mr. Yilmaz. Councillors, do you have any questions or first comments on this matter? Are we seeing anything? No. Okay. So for council's consideration, then I have a resolution that the Council of the Municipality of North Perth approve the application for a zoning bylaw amendment for the removal of a holding symbol -H affecting property described as lots 34 to 41 and 43 to 61 of Plan 44M71, Winchester Crescent Listowel, Elmo Ward in the municipality of North Perth as the conditions for removal have been met. And further, that bylaw number 158-2020, being a bylaw to amend the North Perth zoning bylaw number 6-ZB-1999 as amended, be introduced, read, and considered read a first, second, and third time and be finally passed, that the said bylaw be signed by the mayor and the clerk and sealed with the seal of the corporation. Councillor Seiler, can I call on you to be our mover for that?
Yes, I'll move that. Thank you.
Thank you. And Councillor Andreessen, will you be the seconder for that?
Yes, I'll second that motion. Thank you.
Thanks. Any discussion or debate from council at this point? Let's have that vote. Councillor Johnston, we're not registering your vote. What's it?
It didn't come up on eScribe. I'll go in and out, but I'm in favor.
Okay, so that with that, that's carried. Thank you. Next up is item 5.2.2, which is a report from North Perth planner Sean Yilmaz pertaining to some homework that was assigned to council at an earlier meeting and related to this council's opportunity to provide feedback to the County of Perth to their initiated official plan amendment 189. I'll ask Mr. Yilmaz to summarize his consolidation of the comments and the path forward. I'll say before I invite Sean on to speak that I think we might need to step through the thematic areas one by one, since there wasn't clear agreement amongst those councillors who did submit replies in this report. And with that, I'll call on Mr. Yilmaz.
Thank you. So yes, as you mentioned, some of North Perth Council has expressed concern regarding the County of Perth proposed official plan amendment, OPA 189, which are changes to the current severance policies in the County of Perth official plan relating to surplus farm dwellings. In an effort to gather these comments, questions, and concerns, staff have collected feedback and organized opinions based on the various policy that is being considered by County Council. Staff has received comments from 4 council members. Of the 4 sets of comments received, 1 is generally in support of the changes proposed, with the other three expressing concerns for the bulk of the proposed official plan amendment. Although there does seem to be a consistent concern regarding the overall size of the proposed lots. As Mayor Kaysenberg has mentioned, there is an opportunity for this council to either endorse all of the proposed OPA 189 or part of the OPA 189, or council can reject the proposed amendment in its entirety. Alternatively, council may also request a deferral on this matter and request additional information. There has been a request for 2 items. The first being a report from the county, which shows any other jurisdiction which has official plan policies that include a broader range of accessory uses, home industries, and the keeping of limited quantities of livestock for surplus farmhouse severance lots. And the second being the written comments from the Ministry of Municipal Affairs and Housing, and through them, the Ministry of Agriculture, Food, and Rural Affairs regarding the proposed county official plan amendment. So as I mentioned previously, of the 5 noted changes, only one of the proposed change, that is the removal of the criteria that a surplus farm dwelling be surplus to a farm located within Perth County, was essentially unanimously supported, albeit with some conditions from one of the council members. However, the other 4 were opposed by 3 of the council members, with 1 member supporting the changes. Now, my suggestion is that we can go through each proposed change and see if council would prefer to support the change or not support the change. And based on that, I would draft a letter expressing the support for or against the proposed changes and send it to the county ahead of the public meeting. The requested items that I had mentioned earlier was forwarded to the county planning department. However, I have not received anything at this point. And I'm not sure if council wants to endorse something outside of receiving that information. I would leave that up to this council. But I also should note that if the OPA official plan amendment is approved, North Perth is not obligated to adopt those policies as written and can add provisions and regulations that this council feels appropriate through the North Perth zoning bylaw. That's just another tidbit of information that I just kind of wanted to mention, but I'm not sure if this council would prefer to get that information back from the county prior to endorsing this policy or not endorsing it, but otherwise we can go through each of the proposed changes.
Okay, so let me see if I've got this right, and let me sort of poll council on this briefly. As I understand it, there are 2 outstanding information requests from other bodies that have not been fulfilled completely at this point. Is that right, Mr. Yilmaz?
Yes, that is correct, yes.
Okay, so an option that council could elect, although maybe you should remind us all, the county has a timeline on this. Do you recall what their request was for feedback in terms of a deadline?
I would have to double check. It is coming up very soon. So if that is something that council wants to consider, it would probably be wise to defer, ask county council to defer a decision on this.
So I was actually thinking about another step, which is that this council could wait another week and pick up this matter from the table next week if we had more information from our outstanding information reports. But I'm not sure how that jives with the county's plan.
If you give me a second, I could just look up and see what exactly the timeline was here.
Okay. Might be a race here. I think Clerk Berfelds is doing the same. Are they shooting for the November 19th meeting of County Council? Is that what we're thinking? Okay. So it sounds like County Council might pick this up as soon as November 19th, which is its next meeting date, which means that we could have another meeting, but the inclusion of our formal feedback, if any, in their council package would probably miss their council package assembly deadline. That's sort of my current thing. So let me ask councillors, just sort of as a straw poll here, how many would rather defer till next council meeting, understanding that that could mean that our formal response is not included in the county council package and is distributed just that day? Are there any? If there are some who wish to defer, please so indicate in the chat box to Pat, clerk. Okay, so Deputy Mayor Kellum is saying he's open to deferral. Councillor Duncan is open to deferral. It looks like Councillor Richardson wants to defer, although he spelled it wrong in the text box. Councillor Johnston has a question. Oh, okay, Councillor Johnston.
Just a question about, since I'm not familiar with county council, would we lose our effectiveness if our letter's not included with the county council package?
I can respond from personal experience that as a county councillor, I am rather frustrated if something is delivered to me immediately before the meeting to be consumed at that point. Doug, Matt, your thoughts?
Absolutely agree with you, Mayor Todd. Yes.
Thanks. And Matt, any feelings about that too?
And sometimes it can be an annoyance to get information last minute, but sometimes if any of that other information back is indeed needs to be pertinent, then that can obviously, and we do get that information as well last minute, even for our own meetings related to this. So I do think that it's something that every council can certainly deal with if it's even though there are dates involved. But I do believe that you can certainly make our point known after the fact.
Okay, thank you. I think, okay, cue up the list for me here, Pat. You've got a couple of people. Yeah, right. Okay, so CAO Snell, did you want to make some comments?
I sort of put my cue in before some of this discussion, but I really was going to suggest that if we want to defer even until next week, I think we should send a formal request to the county to defer the decision until our council has a chance to review the comments coming from both the province and any other body that might be making comment.
That seems quite reasonable to me. Who else? I think Mr. Yilmaz was listed there again. Sean?
Yes, thank you. And just to add to that point, if we're requesting comments from a ministry, we might not have it back by next week. We can't guarantee that they were going to comment within our timeline. So it would probably be pertinent to send to the county a request for deferral ahead of time.
Okay. So with regards to a deferral to await more information, I think we had a few voices prior to the additional information provided indicating they would support deferral. Are there others who are willing to defer, or do we want to get into this tonight in the absence of having the comments that are outstanding from other organizations? Okay. Councillor Behrens?
Thank you, Mayor Kasenberg. I think it's imperative that we do not defer. I think it's imperative that we send our information in. We can request deferral from the county, but there's no indication that they will defer it. We can wait for other information, but again, as Planner Yilmaz has suggested, we don't know when that information is coming. So I think it's important that we go through this tonight. We have our comments. At least we've made comment. Irregardless of what county council decides for the future, at least we have hit the timelines and made the comment. And I think it's imperative that we get it in so that it's in their package, that they can read our concerns and then move on. Thank you.
Thanks. Councillor Duncan is next.
I think county council, in my opinion, there wouldn't be a problem with deferring this for another meeting should it come to the 19th meeting. There doesn't seem to be any rush from the rest of county council to push this through until we get feedback from each lower tier. And definitely no rush from county planning department as well until we have all the comments. So I wouldn't be worried about deferring here tonight until we have the full information so each of North Perth councillors can make an informed decision on how they feel about these amendments as well.
Okay, anyone further? Okay, so Councillor Andreessen, I think, supports Councillor Heren's position, which is to determine things tonight, move things along. Anyone else want to weigh in on this? It's pretty hard at this point. Councillor Rothwell?
I agree with Julie's comment that we should probably move forward, but frankly, if the rest of council's not willing to move forward on the basis of Councillor Duncan's comments, I mean, if county council is in fact not in a rush, so to speak, to move this through, then that's fine. I do find it odd, however, that the Minister of Municipal Affairs haven't had any comment. The public meeting was held previously on this, so something of this magnitude, I suspect, should have some comment from the province, though it should have been shared with council, North Perth Council, as we did consider this as well. But I'll wait to hear what the rest of council has. Thanks.
Okay. Anyone else want to comment? Councillor Johnston?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I agree with Councillor Behrens and Councillor Andreessen that we should discuss it tonight and get our thoughts heard.
So, okay, Councillor Behrens as a supplemental.
Thank you, Mayor Kasenberg. If I'm correct in saying every councillor at North Perth had the opportunity to submit comments. So we have already pooled our councillors. If information becomes available that we have supplemental concerns that we want to mention, we can go ahead and do that at a later date if the county defers. But my concern is, what if they don't? We need to put our comments in, at least the basic comments, and then at a future date, if more information becomes available, because I can't personally see Perth County passing this in one meeting, then we would have the opportunity to submit other comments as well. But I do think it is imperative that we get our comments in. Thank you.
Okay. This is one of those wisdom of Solomon moments. I'm struggling with how to determine council's wishes here. And frankly, I sort of resort back to the decision that I made with regards to my own position on the chicken discussions, where some members of council indicated that they weren't happy that they had not received enough reports, and in a sense, their parliamentary privilege was being challenged, and we gave those councillors more time to receive the reports and more information that was sought. So I'm personally, I'm leaning towards a deferral for a week to see what happens. But at the same time, I do admit the practicality of actually hearing from some senior level government agencies and groups does not seem likely that we're going to get those answers in that time frame. So I do have a concern. I want to make sure that this council's view is heard. I think probably we should consider parliamentary privilege expressed by a few who are saying that they want more time to consider those reports. Should we put this to a vote? Just choose a path and see what happens. All right. Yeah. Okay. So let's put a motion on the floor then. Perhaps I'll just to test this. The motion, I think, should be that we defer further council action on this until our meeting of November 16th, 2020. And given that I was listening to different people here, let's see, Councillor Duncan, would you be prepared to move that?
Yes, I'll move that motion.
Thank you. And Deputy Mayor Callum, will you serve as our seconder for that?
Yes, I'll make that motion, or I'll second that motion. Thank you.
Thanks. Okay, so we have a motion that this just allows us to test council's will here. So we'll move this along. I think we've heard pretty much all the positions. There might have been 2 or 3 councillors we haven't heard from, but if they want to speak, let's have you speak about this motion that's on the floor at this point. Otherwise, we'll get this test done and we'll decide how we proceed. Anyone further want to speak? Deputy Clerk Buer, are you with us with regards to an e-scribe motion? All right, so the motion, let's have that vote. So that is carried. So we're deferring this for a week. We need to make clear, I think it's council's wish to make clear that we are seeking the additional set of information. And councillors who did not respond to the original survey, there's probably still now an opportunity for you to do so should you so wish. All right, let's move on to items 5.2.3. Council is invited to promulgate a development agreement with Lone Oak Properties related to residential land plans and a new road or road extension in Atwood. I'm going to ask Mr. Yilmaz to provide us with an overview of that request and the possible actions.
Thank you. I think there was just to note that I think there was a couple comments from the last section that might have been missed, but I can just jump into this quickly. So on June 15th, 2020, North Perth Council granted permission to Lone Oak Properties to proceed with the opening of Block 27 of Plan 565 to extend Queen Street in Atwood southward, and to proceed with the development of the remaining vacant lots and blocks. This was subject to a condition that the property owner enter into a development agreement with the municipality. The municipality has prepared this development agreement and is requesting that the mayor and the clerk authorize the signing of said agreement. Additionally, a bylaw must be passed to establish Block 27 as a public highway, and therefore effectively opening Queen Street. So this is in front of you as well. It is staff's recommendation that the Council of the Municipality of North Perth proceed with the adoption of the bylaw authorizing the mayor and clerk to enter into a development agreement and to adopt the bylaw establishing a public highway.
Thank you, Mr. Yilmaz. On this matter, any questions or comments? Felt anything there? We're not seeing anything, so let's have a look at the resolution that's been posed. That the Council of the Municipality of North Perth received the report entitled Development Agreement with Lone Oak Properties Limited, dated November 9th, 2020 for information, and further that bylaw number 156-2020 being a bylaw to authorize the signing of a development agreement with Lone Oak Properties Limited be introduced, read, and considered read a first, second, and third time and be finally passed, and that the said bylaw be signed by the mayor and the clerk and sealed with the seal of the corporation. Can I call on Councillor Anstead to be our mover for that one?
Yes, I would move that motion. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Behrens, will you second that?
Yes, I will second that.
Thank you. Any discussion or debate from council on this one? Let's have that vote. And that is carried. Thank you. And I take note that Councillor Duncan has indicated that establishing the highway. Okay, so Councillor Duncan, we're coming to you. We're going to deal with the last motion under the clerk's department, and we'll come back to you on your request. All right, so next up is item 5. Oh, it's the same motion? Same motion batch. Okay, thank you. It's related matter. Thank you. Got it now. I'm just moving a little slowly here. Same matter. This is for the purposes of establishing a highway associated with the previous business. So the resolution that I have before me reads as follows: that bylaw number 157-2020, being a bylaw to establish a highway, Queen Street, Atwood, be introduced, read, and considered read a first, second, and third time, and be finally passed. That the said bylaw be signed by the mayor and the clerk and sealed with the seal of the corporation. Can I call on Councillor Johnston to be our mover for that?
Yes, I would move that.
Thank you. And Councillor Richardson, will you be our seconder?
I will second that motion. Thank you.
Thanks. Any discussion or debate? Seeing none, let's have that vote. And we've lost.
I'm in favor. It didn't pop up. I apologize.
Oh, no problem. Thank you. So with that, that's carried. Thank you. And now I think we're going to turn to Councillor Duncan. Go ahead.
Yeah, I'd just like to make a motion in regards to 5.2.2, formally requesting that North Perth send a letter to Perth County Council requesting that Perth County Council defer any consideration of the OPA until such time as we have time to submit our comments after receive the information we've requested from Perth County.
Thank you. Let me just clarify. So in terms of receiving information we've requested from Perth County, I believe some of that information was intended to be received from provincial ministries as well. Is it your intention to await that, or is the purpose of your motion just to deal with county matters that might be outstanding, and the provincial matter has to stand on its own and will come at its own time?
I can go either way, depending on what the rest of council feels that they would like to see there.
Okay. Mr. Yilmaz, just remind us, what are we waiting on from the county on this matter versus a response from provincial ministries?
So basically, when I received comments back, I'm just going through my notes here. There was a request for a couple of those items. One being from written comments from the Ministry of Municipal Affairs and Housing, and through them, the Ministry of Agriculture, Food and Rural Affairs regarding the proposed county official plan amendment. So basically, written comments from those two ministries just in response to the overall official plan amendment. And then the other item was a report from the county which shows any other jurisdiction which has official plan policies which include a broader range of accessory uses, home industries, and the keeping of limited quantities of livestock for the purpose of surplus farmhouse severance lots. So yeah, those are the two items.
Okay, so the latter seems like it's more within reach in a timely fashion because it relies on the county to respond. The former seems like we certainly we're beggars, not choosers here, and we would have to await the provincial government guidance.
Sorry, and just, do you mind if I comment? Sorry.
Yeah, go ahead.
Just as Councillor Rothwell had mentioned, the county could already be in the possession of comments from these ministries if they have opted to comment on the official plan amendment when they were circulated. I haven't seen anything, nor would they have come to me. As I mentioned, we have sent these requests to the county, but again, they haven't addressed it formally to me yet, so they might be in receipt of them already. I don't know.
Okay, thank you. So I think the text of the motion is probably reasonable in terms of what we're waiting on. We're waiting on county responses at this point, and the county certainly has within its capabilities to the ability to answer the second request, and it may have an answer for the first request, or it will in whatever time frame. But you know, perhaps part of the answer of the county is we don't have that answer. So I think that motion seems reasonable. Councillor Duncan, you're still good with the wording that you've put on the floor?
Yep, I'm fine with that.
Okay, and can I call on Councillor Seiler to be our seconder for that?
Yes, Mayor Todd, just one comment. I'd just like to say I think that the ball is in the county's court right now, and this is a good move, and I will gladly second this motion. Thank you.
Okay, thanks, Terry. Okay, any discussion or debate on this motion? Okay, so we see that Councillor Rothwell wants to jump in at something related to this, so please go ahead.
Thank you, Mayor Todd. I was patient there. I was jumping up and down trying to get comments before, but anyways, I think Councillor Duncan raised the point that we should probably complete the information going to county council so they can understand why we haven't submitted something, and to put in writing the request for information. So I'll be voting in favor of the motion. Thank you.
Thanks. Anyone else have a comment, discussion, debate around this one? Okay, Deputy Clerk Beer, you got that for us. All right, let's have that vote. And that is carried. Thank you very much. Okay, that moves us along to item 5.2.4. Council is to be given an update on Remembrance Day ceremonies at the Listowel Cenotaph. And I'm going to ask Clerk Bearfelds to provide us a brief overview of what's happening there, because I'm sure councillors would like to know. Just let me set my audio controls here so that we don't have terrible feedback.
Council, tonight we're not asking for any endorsement from Municipal Council, but I would like to share the opportunity with you as to what the plans are for this year's Remembrance Day service. So in conversation with members of the committee preparing for the service on Wednesday, the decision was made to make it a small crowd at the cemetery, at the cenotaph, in regards to the laying of the wreath. Padre Dworka will be present, as well as individuals of the executive of the Legion in regards to the service. A request was considered by the committee that the road be closed, being 23, in order to sort of keep the road quiet for the minutes of silence. However, in conversation with Perth County OPP, they were not supportive of that action and have asked the Legion to reconsider for the reasons by closing the section of the road would only maybe incur opportunity for crowds to come together, which they certainly are trying to discourage. What they are trying to do is encourage the public to join them virtually as far as the service is concerned, as well as individuals have been encouraged, schools, workplaces, to have their own opportunity for Remembrance Day and their 2-minute silence at their workplaces. I'd be happy to answer any questions, and I know CAO Snell can make comment as well.
Thanks, Clerk Bearfelds, and I will be participating on behalf of the municipality in the occasion, and have been invited to say a few words, which I will do on behalf of the municipality. Any questions or comments about this matter, just so that your curiosity is satisfied? Councillor Behrens.
Thank you, Mayor Kasenberg. Yes, on behalf of Wallace Ward, I was invited to attend the service in Palmerston to lay the wreath. So I will be attending in that regard. And I believe the Atwood service is going to be televised. Perhaps Clerk Bearfelds could mention that as well.
Thank you for assuming that for us, Councillor Behrens. And in Atwood, what they've done is they've pre-filmed their service, and it is available. It will be available. It is on YouTube already. A link has been sent out to some of us anyway. And I think, in due course, if you haven't received it yet, you'll receive that link so you can watch the Atwood one if you wish. So we invite all of the community to participate in a responsible fashion in Remembrance Day festivities, ceremonies this year. We acknowledge that we are very mindful of the gathering limits established by the province and encourage people to maintain appropriate physical distancing in any activity that they would undertake along this matter, including if they even have been invited to participate. We remind again of physical distancing requirements and encourage you to watch the appropriate events on YouTube or on Facebook Live per the feeds that will be made available. The links will be made available on our website, and I'm sure the town of Minto is doing the same. So thank you. And questions or comments? Okay, let's move on then to item 5.3. We have no reports for council from our recreation department as item 5.3. That turns us to item 5.4, reports from the Treasury and Finance Department. As item 5.4.1, finance staff has brought forward for council review the accounts as of November 9th, 2020. I'll note that some councillors have declared a potential pecuniary interest in this item and will absent themselves from consideration and voting. Are there any questions about this report to our staff from council members? Okay, seeing none, I have a resolution that reads as follows: that the following summary of accounts be received by council for information, and the total at the bottom line is $1,917,306.82. Can I call on Councillor Rothwell to be our mover for this?
I so move.
And Councillor Andreessen, will you be our seconder for this one?
Yes, I'll second that motion.
Thank you. Any discussion or debate? Seeing none, let's have that vote. And we're missing 3, so that's carried. Thank you. Let's move along then to item 5.5, the Manager of Environmental Services. There's no report from his department at this meeting, but I know that our water crew is working hard and many environmental good things are happening in our community. Let's look at item 5.6, reports from the Department of Operations. At this time, item 5.6.1, council is invited to establish a roster of qualified contractors related to the provision of engineering services to the corporation. Is Mr. White with us tonight? Treasurer Hale then? Is Treasurer Hale representing? Or is Mr. Couch? Okay, you saw we went through the list here. It sounds like it sounds like you're it, Mr. Couch. Did you have any comment?
Yes, thank you, Mayor Kasenberg, members of council. The process is one of procurement. We haven't utilized it in the past, and the finance and purchasing assistant definitely assisted with how we laid out a roster for engineers, which is like a pre-qualification for engineering firms for several disciplines. We did involve the disciplines of drainage, subdivision review and site plan review, linear road construction and management, as well as environmental services or environmental and storm water management. So those are the 4 areas. The first ones are here tonight in front of you. And as outlined in the report, we had a very good turnout in terms of firms that were interested in applying, and detailed proposals were presented by all of them. There was a panel of reviewers that did go through the various topics that we had in advance in terms of how we were to rank the firms, and we were very impressed. Any mark over a 70 would be considered an excellent mark in this rostering process. And what ultimately is in front of you is the two designations or disciplines, one for environmental engineering. And you can see that the ranking for environmental engineering went with the highest score to BM Ross and Associates. That will involve a lot of stormwater work. They happen to be a firm that's been quite involved with stormwater management and stormwater processes in North Perth. So that'll be the #1 project starting out of the blocks for the next few years. And BM Ross was the #1 bid there. We can move forward or move back up into the report looking at linear road construction, which is our typical reconstruction projects, which involve pre-construction, pre-servicing, I should say pre-surveying, as well as the reconstruction itself and administration of the projects. Triton, BM Ross, GM Blue Plan all scoring very well there, and they would be retained in the roster. And as it explains in the report, there's an opportunity to, especially in larger projects, to access these services more quickly. That's the best thing of the roster that is in front of us here. Instead of putting out full RFPs for projects, we can have a very specific project that they may be familiar with, or one that is large, but we would be asking for specific proposals and specific costing from these 3 firms alone, meaning it would be quick turnaround. And if council saw a project that was approaching or of interest and needed information on it, it would be something that could be accessed in a much quicker fashion. So the roster's in front of you with a recommendation to move forward over the next 4 years with the firms that are listed. And the mayor can read to you that recommendation, and I'm certainly able to answer questions about the process.
Thank you, Lyndon. I'm wishing you were one of my university professors and looking at my 70% grades as excellent. I'm kind of shy that didn't happen, unfortunate. Okay, questions or comments from council? Councillor Rothwell?
Thank you, Mayor Todd. Through to you, Lyndon. Thank you for the report. My question is, in the situation where we have only the one firm, BM Ross, on the roster for the environmental piece, how is that going to change from what we currently do, and versus in the second situation where we have a pick list of 3 that we can go to, and I understand from your comments and certainly from the report that gives us a bit more ability to be flexible and perhaps quicker, as you say, to save time. But on the other piece where we're only selecting one, how does that going to change what we do now? Thank you.
Mr. Couch?
Yeah, thank you. If we look at the overall proposal that was set forward to the engineers, that was the one, and I think Councillor Rothwell has noticed it, the one that was very detailed in terms of the project scope, project detail, and deliverables. So in fact, it was almost an RFP built into the roster that very much defined this project. Now I should say, and it's mentioned in the report as well, that we can get a detailed proposal from the firm once awarded on the roster, and that's what I'll be doing. I'll be moving forward with outlining again all the expectations and deliverables for the master plan, and then getting back a commitment on pricing, on timing, on availability for the firm. If perchance this situation or any other situation on any other year found the firm to say that they were too busy, or we found prices to be prohibitive, we could go to another firm and ask for the same proposal, or in fact just do it right off the get-go. We have a large road project next year, for example. We can ask all 3 firms for proposals. Getting back to BM Ross and Environmental Services, we can ask them. We're not committed to award to them specifically. We could move outside of that for certain reasons that we could explain to them, and get proposals from any of the other firms as well that applied. So it doesn't bind us to it, and we very much can always make this a more comprehensive process, even though this does streamline it.
Thank you.
Any other questions or comments from council? Okay, so I have a resolution for consideration. related to this roster for vendors, that the Council of the Municipality of North Perth award the linear road construction and environmental engineering stormwater management roster positions for the request for proposal number NP-010-20P engineering services roster to the following firms: Linear Road Construction, Triton Engineering Services Limited, BM Ross and Associates Limited, GM Blue Plan Engineering, and Environmental Engineering Stormwater Management, BM Ross and Associates Limited. Can I call on Councillor Anstett to be our mover for that?
Yes, I would move that motion. Thank you.
Thanks. And Councillor Behrens, will you serve as our seconder?
Yes, I will second that motion. Thank you.
Thanks. Any discussion or debate or further questions? Seeing none, let's have that vote. And that is carried. Thank you. And we have received tonight no matters. Thank you, Mr. Couch. We've received tonight no matters from the fire chief for our consideration, which bounces us along to item 6 on our agenda. For item 6.1, councillors, are there any reports you would like to ask of staff or our committees? Again, usual notification, a request to chat, use the chat function in the web conferencing tool. Else, anything? Okay, we're not seeing anything, so that brings us to item 7. We have received one item of correspondence that staff has advised warrants further action. For item 7.1, we have a request from the North Perth Chamber of Commerce to permit the closing of a road for the purposes of the proposed drive-through Christmas parade to occur adjacent to Listowel Memorial Park on the afternoon of November 28th, 2020. I have a resolution proposed to enable this that reads like this: that the Council of the Municipality of North Perth approve the request from the Chamber of Commerce to close Derry Street and Royal Street on Saturday, November 28th, 2020 at 11 a.m. for the drive-through Christmas parade. Councillor Duncan, are you feeling like Santa Claus? Would you like to be our mover for that one?
I most certainly would.
Thank you. Deputy Mayor Kellum, will you be our seconder?
Ho, ho, ho. Absolutely.
Thank you. Good responses, guys. Any discussion or debate? Don't be a Grinch. All right, let's have that vote. And that's carried. Thank you. It'd be fun to run a whole council meeting with Christmas theme enter. I think that would be very interesting, actually. All right, that brings us to item number 8 on our agenda, which allows council to consider and enact bylaws. We have 2 of them tonight to look at. The first is for consideration the draft of a bylaw to provide for a leasing agreement with the Heren Perth Catholic District School Board related to the occupancy of the St. Mary's Daycare Center in Listowel. Any comments from the clerk on this one? It's pretty straightforward. Okay, so I have the resolution. It reads as follows: that bylaw number 147-2020, being a bylaw to authorize the signing of a lease agreement with Heren Perth Catholic District School Board, be introduced, read, and considered read a first, second, and third time, and be finally passed. The said bylaw be signed by the mayor and the clerk and sealed with the seal of the corporation. Can I call on Councillor Johnston to be our mover for this one?
Yes, I would move that.
Thank you. And Councillor Richardson, will you be our seconder?
I will second that. Thank you.
Thanks. Any discussion or debate? Seeing none, let's have that vote. So that's carried, noting those who had declared interest in this matter. Next up then is item 8.2. Council is asked to enact bylaw number 148-2020, which authorizes the purchase of land by the corporation as discussed recently in a closed session meeting of council. Clerk Bearfelds, do you have any comments you want to make about this one? Or is this just, we're good? Straightforward. Let me set the AV so that we don't harm people.
I believe this is fairly straightforward, that council did entertain the conversation in an actual closed session meeting under potential land purchase a few meetings ago. Council agreed to move forward with that, and the agreement has been reviewed and signed by the individuals that we're purchasing the lands from. And this, of course, is for trail purposes. I don't perceive any concerns at this time.
Thanks, Clerk Bearfelds. Okay, I have a resolution then for our consideration that bylaw number 148-2020, being a bylaw to authorize the acquisition of land, be introduced, read, and considered read a first, second, and third time, and be finally passed, that the said bylaw be signed by the mayor and the clerk and sealed with the seal of the corporation. Councillor Rothwell, can I call on you to be a mover?
Also move.
Thank you. Councillor Seiler, will you be our seconder for that one?
I will second that. Thank you.
Thank you. Any discussion or debate from council on this matter? Seeing none, let's have that vote. And that's carried. Thank you. That brings us to item number 9 on our agenda. Councillors, are there any notices of motion from you this evening? Any indication of that, clerk? Okay, so that brings us to agenda item number 10. For item 10.1, are there any announcements that would be of benefit to our community or that reflect well on North Perth at this time? Please indicate your desire to speak in the chat window and we'll call on you in order. Clerk Bearfelds, anything? Okay. I'm going to remind councillors that Perth County Municipal Day is coming up quickly. And it will be November 18th in the morning. I think the reservations of your tickets still open. It's still possible for you to get tickets if you haven't done so already. And it is a virtual event this year. I'm looking forward to the opportunity to hear from some of the experts that they've lined up for our thinking. Any other announcements at this point? Okay. So let's move on to agenda item number 11. We have 2 matters before us to be considered in a closed session of council. I will now read the resolution that both explains and enables our action to enter closed session. The resolution reads as follows. Committee proceed in camera at 8:10 p.m. to address matters pertaining to a position, plan, procedure, criteria, or instruction to be applied to any negotiations carried on or to be carried on by or on behalf of the municipality or local board regarding service agreements and personal matters about an identifiable individual, including municipal or local board employees, regarding the organizational restructuring vision. Can I call on Councillor Andreessen to be our mover for this one?
Yes, I'll make that motion, Mayor Todd.
Thank you. And Councillor Anstett, will you be our seconder for that?
Yes, I would second that. Thank you.
Thanks. Any discussion or debate or questions? Seeing none, let's have that vote.
I'm in favor.
Didn't come up, eh? Okay.
No, it didn't come up.
With Councillor Anstett's vote, that means that is carried and we are temporarily adjourned. Council, I ask you to stay on. Staff who've been invited to remain in this session are invited to remain. Any other staff, thank you for attending this evening, and at this time you can sign off the call. We'll be back in a few moments. Super Simon's going to fix things for us here so that everything works and we can have our closed session meeting. And we will be back to public session after our closed session for a brief discussion. So take about 5 minutes at this point, Council. See there, to there. Okay, so we just need someone to check whether the YouTube feed is functioning.
Matt.
Matt, you're the man. Can you hear us on YouTube?
Yes, it is fine. I've got my chat box is incorrect, but yes, we're live on YouTube.
Great, thank you very much. All right. So with regards to item 12 on our agenda, there's nothing at this point to report out to the public. And that means that we're nearing the end of our meeting through the instrument known as the Confirmatory Bylaw. A council, as a mandated practice, acts near the end of its meeting agenda to confirm all of its actions and business of its meeting through this confirmatory bylaw. I have that draft. It reads as follows: that bylaw number 159/20, being a bylaw to confirm generally previous actions of the Council of the Municipality of North Perth, be introduced, read and considered read a first, second, and third time, and be finally passed. And said bylaw be signed by the mayor and the clerk and sealed with the seal of the corporation. Councillor Richardson, can I call on you to be our mover for that one?
I will happily move that. Thank you.
Thank you. And Councillor Rothwell, our seconder.
I'll second the motion.
Thank you. Any discussion or debate on that? Are you able to trigger the vote, Pat, or is this just a verbal vote? So are there any opposed? And we're seeing none, so that is carried. Let's move then to the moment at the end of the meeting. Councillors, we've talked about everything that was put on our plate tonight. Before we move to adjourn, is there any further business? Seeing or hearing none, I have a motion for adjournment that reads as follows: that the council meeting adjourns at 9:34 p.m. To meet again for general council business on Monday, November 16th, 2020 at 7 p.m. And I call on Councillor Seiler to be our mover for that one.
I will move that.
Thank you. And Councillor Andreessen, will you be our seconder?
Yes, I'll second that.
Thank you. Are there any opposed? Seeing none, that's carried. At this point, the council will meet again using digital technologies on Monday, November 16th. This meeting is adjourned. Thank you all.